This is a video about how I use a Tamiya 4-wheel drive speed checker for my slot cars. I had to modify the device so as to use it with slot cars rather than the way it operates with an actual Tamiya 4-wheel drive mini vehicle. The mini vehicles are battery powered, so basically you take the vehicle and put it on the rollers and then press the buttons to operate the timing sequence. But with a slot car you need to have, for one thing, a slot, and you need to have power rails for the car to, for the motor to turn and rotate the wheels against the rollers. So I'm just going to sort of run through that sort of setup. I have to say that the Tamiya unit is not calibrated in any way. It's just purely standalone, and you use it as you find it. So we're using it with a slot car. It's best to have a power supply which you can regulate the voltage with. That allows you to sort of slow down and speed up the rotation of the wheels, and it also allows you to have a consistent voltage setting that you're running the cars against, so that you get consistent readings. So typically you might want to say, you might be wanting to true the wheels and tyres, so you could do a test run, make a note of the time taken for the test run, then attend to the truing of the wheels and tyres, put the car back on the rollers, run another test run at the same voltage as used before, and then you can see if you've got a faster time achieved because the car is performing a bit better. So that's kind of the setup. Cutting slots, fairly standard. Oh, sorry. To modify it, you have to remove the forward pair of rollers, which are normally here, and there's an axle which runs underneath. So you need to remove the rollers and the axle, which kind of takes away from being able to use it with the Tamiya mini vehicles. But if you're doing one sport, then you're probably not doing the other. So you can remove the rollers at the front, keep them somewhere safe because you can fit them back in again if you want to later. I've fitted a small digital readout on here which gives me a sort of additional readout of the voltage, but that's not really necessary if you have a variable power supply like this one, which has a voltage readout on it. The two are not reading the same, typically because they're uncalibrated units. They're not sort of sharply accurate. About 0.15 of a voltage difference between the two here. But as long as, as I say, consistency is the key if you want to monitor improvements you're making to the car. Obviously, if you're changing the motor or something like that, you expect it to be a lot faster or maybe a lot slower. But having the voltage consistent is a good plan. So if you always set it to say 10 volts, either on the power supply unit, or if you add a separate voltage readout then on there, whichever you prefer. But as long as you run at a consistent voltage, you should get some good value out of the device. Obviously, another thing you can do is actually fit a switch to be able to isolate the rails. At the moment, if I put the car on the rails, it's going to run. The motor's going to run, and that can be annoying sometimes, to be honest. You could fit a switch somewhere to be able to isolate the voltage. I've just taken a couple of wires out the back of the unit and connected up fairly roughly to this power supply unit. You could do a more neat solution if you are so inclined. The other thing you need to do is the Tamiya vehicles are all the same size, same length, and therefore this stopper dam thing at the end here suits all the Tamiya mini 4-wheel drive vehicles. Obviously, slot cars vary in length, so for a fairly short car such as this one, you need to have a sort of spacer at the front to stop the car moving forwards away from the rollers. So happily, PP3 battery is a good size for that, either sitting flat or sitting upwards, depending on the car you're putting on the test bed. So now if I put the car on, you'll see that the battery is pretty happy on the rollers, the test rollers, and the car's not able to move forward. I'll just show you obviously what happens if I do that. Car rolls forward and the roll still turns because it's not on there. Hope you saw that being deafened. But anyway, with the some sort of padding out device sitting there, the car will sit on it, and we can then proceed to check the time that the device runs at. I'll need to move the camera so you can see the readout properly, but if you have one of these units already, you'll be familiar with the way that it runs. You set it to check the time that it takes to achieve or cover a distance of, I think it's 300 meters or something like that, and the readout gives you a time that the rollers rotate equivalent to that distance. You can make a note of that obviously, and then make improvements to the car, and then try again. So I'll just lower the camera and get set up again. I've moved the camera in a bit closer now, so I'll just go quickly through the modifications. The rollers at the front have been removed, a slot cut in the plastic casing, and then a couple of metal, well, brass strips in this case, brass strips glued onto the plastic, wires soldered onto the brass, and then fed out the back to a means of connecting the brass strips to power supply. Power supply is here, and I mentioned I've fitted a separate digital readout here just for extra information, and that would be useful if I didn't have a readout on the variable power supply, which I think you can see. Yeah, you can see that. So the rest of the unit is as normal. At the back here, these are the rollers which do the timing. I've painted white sections on just to give a sort of indication that they are turning. The rollers at the back are just there to hold in the standard Tamiya vehicles, hold them against the rollers. If your slot car is bouncing around a bit too much because the wheels and tyres are not perfectly round, you may have to sort of apply some gentle pressure at the rear end to hold the tyres against the rollers, again, so you get proper consistency of the readings. If the tyres are if they're hardened tyres like happens on old collector cars, then obviously this is not going to work. You're relying on the grip of the tyres driving the rollers round. And the rollers, I'm going to the detail of the actual machine now. The rollers rotate a slotted wheel in the centre here, which has a sensor monitoring rotation of that, and from that rotation and the time duration, the display reads out the time taken to cover a certain distance, which, as I said before, is equivalent to the rotation of the wheels, the rotation of the rollers. Hope that makes sense. But if you've got one of these, you'll know how it works. It's going to get very noisy when we put the car back on the rollers again, so I may not be able to speak, but basically I'm going to put it on the rollers and then start the timing and take it from there. I've actually numbered the buttons 1, 2 and 3, the numbering is sort of faded out a bit, but that's the sequence to get the timing running. Number 1 starts it wakes up the machine effectively, so press number 1. Some activity on the screen there, flashing racing car, and it's the readout is that we're doing kilometers per hour, which is one of the options. I'm going to press here, and now gone into the distance mode that I was talking about, and I'll get a time for the amount of time it takes to cover 300 meters, if I think it is effectively. So I'll put the car on and then start the timing. Well, first of all, start the unit up by pressing number 1. Okay, so sorry about the noise, but anyway, so the timing is finished now. Hopefully you can see on the screen is the checkered flag. I mean, this is obviously the standard Tamiya unit. So if you read the instructions, you'll be able to see what the options are and how the unit can be used. But anyway, so checkered flag indicates that it's reached the end of its journey, if you like to give it that term. And it's taken 48.81 seconds. So I can write that down. 48.81 seconds, and I can fiddle about the car, fiddle about. You may have noticed a change in the tone. I think that may be because the motor warmed up and therefore was being a bit more efficient. So try again. So again, I'll set it the timing to be active from there. There's a short delay before the timing actually starts. I guess that's just for all to get up to speed or whatever. So it's not started yet, but I've got to press the button. There's a short delay. I added that red dot. Hope you can hear me. I added the red dot to give you an indication of when it was halfway through. Finished again, and we have 48.68 against 48.81. So maybe the motor is warmed up, that sort of thing. So slight variation, but I think you'll find it's useful. As I say, if I was truing the tyres, which I could do on here, I could do the tyre truing on here while I'm at it, as it were. Best way to do that obviously is to take the body off and put the chassis on to be able to get an emery board or whatever onto the tyre. I think that's all I've got to say. Modify the thing by cutting slot, power rails, this battery there. Actually, one other thing I'm just noticing is that I glued a magnet on here, so if I do take the body screws off, I can put the body screws on the magnet so I don't lose them. So that's a little extra bit. Right, hope that's been useful if you're thinking of doing the same thing. The units are quite difficult to find now. I have a spare one which I'm keeping away safely, but they do seem to be fairly reliable. Oh sorry, one thing I've forgotten. Of course, I'm still relying on having the batteries in for the unit. So the display panel, the timing is all still done by the batteries that go in the base of the unit. If I can get hatch back in again. So this is all done by the batteries. The power supply is purely powering the car. Okay, I hope you find that useful, and if there are any more questions or comments down in the below, then I'll try to answer them, but in real terms, I'm not offering any support here. This is what I do. Okay, thanks for watching.